Welcome back into the Bangtan Universe wormhole. If you're a fan of the BU, you might have noticed some Easter eggs in the BU members' solo material from Chapter 2. And I've been asked more than once if every member drops Easter eggs in his solo work. Well, my answer is a great big yes. In fact, the members have dropped so many Easter eggs that I could list 77 of them without even thinking hard. Stay tuned, I'm going to prove it. I'll start with RM and list the eggs by member in fan chant order. And here's the first one. Wildflower starts with RM standing in front of fireworks. And fireworks are important for a few different reasons. For one thing, Seokjin planned to give his girlfriend a bouquet of smeraldas on the date of the Songju Fireworks Festival. But we all know how that turned out. In the notes book too, the fireworks festival is important for another reason. All 7 guys are watching the fireworks this time, but Jungkook slinks away from the group because the cat has turned him against them. But the title of this whole chapter in Notes 2 is The Reason Why Fireworks Are Beautiful. Yoongi says in his note for this section that fireworks are beautiful because they are so ephemeral. They're precious because they're evanescent. And because they're evanescent, we have to remember them. That relates to the meaning of HYYH, otherwise known as the most beautiful moment in life. And at the end of Notes 2, it relates to Jungkook's friendship with the other members since he's breaking away from them. Next, look at the gold dust in RM's hand. This dust plays an important part in Stay Gold, where it leads the members from isolation and imprisonment to freedom together. And as the dust is flowing over RM's hand, he's rapping, "Yo, where's your dream?" a callback to the opening line of No More Dream. The mask he's rapping about here relates to the masks everyone wore at the end of Fake Love. They're symbolic of the psychological masks we wear in real life. We almost never show anyone our full selves. Instead, we show different faces to different people. Carl Jung calls these faces, or masks, personas, and he says that recognizing our personas is part of following our personal maps of the soul. Now let's move on to still life. Here we see RM making a frame with his fingers and thumbs. It's a gesture that film directors and artists sometimes use when they're trying to study just one part of the scene in front of them. Both Seokjin and Taehyung made this gesture in Spring Day, and we'll see another BTS member make the gesture later in this video. In the BU, Namjoon lives in a train container, and the short film Reflection is full of mirrors. Now here's RM on a train looking at his own reflection again. It's hard to find BU Easter eggs in Right Place, Wrong Person because it's a deeply personal album, but there are a couple of Easter eggs and come back to me. First, there's the overall storyline of the MV, which shows RM moving backwards and forwards through time and repeating events with different outcomes. The second Easter egg is another reference to Carl Jung. Up above, I explained the persona and said that according to Jung, recognizing our personas is part of following the maps of our souls. Another step is connecting with our anima, or animus. An anima is the feminine part of a man's personality, and an animus is the male part of a woman's personality. In the highlight reel, the 6 girls represented the animas of 6 of our heroes. I'll explain the 7th one later. The members who made strong connections with their animas were able to develop psychologically, but Namjoon, the character, was too nervous to connect with his anima. In real life, we see Namjoon connecting freely with his anima in Come Back to Me. That explains this scene, where he's recognizing that the anima is just a part of himself. And once he recognizes that, the rest of the MV becomes much more peaceful. Stop the Rain, RM's collaboration with Tableau, has 3 BU Easter eggs. Here's the first one, the crossed out Icarus, which relates to Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Now you might think the mention of Icarus is just coincidence, and I'd agree if Stop the Rain didn't have 2 more Easter eggs related to Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Here's Icarus falling, or if you want to put it another way, here's a youth losing his white wings as he falls, because falling means losing his innocence. Either way, it's a second reference to Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and the third reference is the song title itself. Now RM's Easter eggs took a lot of explaining, because that's just RM. The other members' Easter eggs will be easier to explain. Jin had several Easter eggs in The Astronaut. First, there's this cover art, which can be viewed as a wormhole. If you're not convinced that this is a wormhole, just wait, you're going to see a lot more. Next, there's this telescope in his bedroom. We see a lot of telescopes in the BU, and they're usually connected to Seokjin. Next is this Polaroid camera, which is clearly connected to his character. And here's an astrolabe, which is usually connected to J-Hope. The astrolabe, by the way, is a device that makes astronomical measurements. The video for Running Wild has a warning about a security camera, and surveillance cameras are all over the BU. I just haven't had a chance to say much about them yet. Running Wild has another telescope, and I'll Be There has skateboards. We saw lots of skateboards in the No More Dream MV, and the photo shoots of the HYYH era included a lot of shots with skateboards. They're another symbol of youth and its fleeting nature. For the Echo photo shoot, Jin posed with a yellow lollipop, another recurring symbol of the BU. The lollipop represents youth, innocence, and happiness. The Echo album cover doubles down on the wormhole imagery with an optical illusion that might give you a spinning sensation if you look at it for long enough. The various versions of the Echo CDs are also wormholes. The lo-fi visualizer for Don't Say You Love Me shows cherry blossoms and a skateboard during the spring segment, then another telescope for the summer night segment. Meanwhile, the band visualizer for Don't Say You Love Me has an hourglass, a Polaroid camera, and a padlock. The padlock should remind you of the locked cabinet in the school storage room. Now you might say the car is driving through a wormhole, but I think that wormhole is debatable, so I'm leaving it out. The VCRs for the D-Day concert are chock full of images from the BU. If I wanted to, I could count each image separately and reach 77 Easter eggs in a flash, but that doesn't seem fair, so I'll count them all as one. Now take a look at this scene from Amygdala and compare it with this scene from Danger. Danger was never official canon, but the more time goes by, the more Danger references we see in canon content. And Suga included this image in his concert VCRs, so that's good enough for me. The D-Day glitch film includes a flock of birds, and birds were always flying over the boys in the HYYH era. They were also a very important symbol in the Wings era. Overall, birds symbolize growth from youth toward adulthood, a process that involves gaining your wings. Finally, this bit from the glitch film is a callback to this bit from No More Dream. Some of you probably didn't know the glitch film existed, and I'll bet even more of you were unaware of this Spotify hero film. RM and Jimin also have Spotify films, but Suga's is the best for finding Easter eggs. Our first one is this pocket watch. Timepieces are always important to the BU. Next is an old-fashioned landline phone. I've said many times that landline phones will be important in the next era of the BU, and here's a semi-secret note from the mini-books to prove it. Here we see time shattering, accompanied by broken glass, and whenever one of Seokjin's time loops breaks, he hears broken glass. These draped objects remind us of the draped furniture in Film Out, and you'll see this imagery again in another member's Easter eggs. This framed image contains two pocket watches locked together in an infinity symbol, and one of those watches has 13 numerals. So this image represents everything about the weirdness and endless looping associated with time traveling. Finally, since this is Yoongi's film, something has to get set on fire. And here it's this picture, which reminds us of this scene from the Japanese version of I Need You. Now let me break in for a moment to ask you if you like BTS trivia. I've made a book of over 600 trivia questions. I bet you can guess the exact number, and I've divided them into 4 levels of difficulty. If you think you might like to check it out, there will be a link in the description below. And now on with the video. Hobie uses a lot of checkerboards or chessboards in his designs for Jack in the Box, and chessboards appear in a lot of material with hidden BU content, for instance the Season's Greetings video. But we also saw a chessboard in Film Out. Chessboards are a classic symbol of cosmic forces at war. In this case, the forces are the cat and the butterfly. So let's make Hobie's suit our first Easter egg, and let's make these covers our second Easter egg. Now in the video for more, we have a hospital scene where Hobie's actually getting his brain checked. That's why Hosik was in the hospital in the BU where he met Jimin. Hosik had a concussion and the doctors were watching him overnight. Now here's the cover on the street, which you can see has a butterfly dead center. Meanwhile, in Sweet Dreams, we have another security camera warning, another astrolabe, another wall phone, and another skateboard. In Mona Lisa, we have two separate pairs of mirrors, both with graffiti on them no less, and one pair of mirrors has sand at the bottom of it. The sand represents both time and the boys' beach trip. Hobie also makes a finger frame like RM made in Still Life, and like Seokjin and Taehyung did in Spring Day. Jimin starts by giving us yet another album cover with a wormhole design. Are you convinced yet? Next, one of the photo shoots for Face includes draped furniture like what we saw in Film Out and in Suga's Spotify hero film. In Set Me Free, Jimin sings Like a Butterfly while representing a butterfly through his dance. In Like Crazy, some BU theorists think that he meets the anima he didn't meet before. The reason there were only 6 girls in the highlight reel is that Jimin wasn't psychologically ready to meet his anima at that time. But this woman is the only person in the crowd who's deliberately moving toward him. And if you look closely, she's also the one who snatches him away to the club at the beginning of the video. It really looks like she represents a part of him. Like Crazy has another callback to the highlight reel in the bathroom when Jimin stares at his face in the mirror. The MV also references his character's childhood trauma in this scene where his feet are stuck in mud, and in this scene where mud drips down the walls. Now let's talk about Muse, which Jimin introduced with a song called Smeraldo Garden Marching Band. It doesn't get any more obvious than that. But apparently that wasn't enough for Jimin because he also gave us a photo shoot with whole walls of Smeraldos. Then he gave us his own callback to Danger with this shopping cart. Remember Jen setting it on fire in Danger? Taehyung's MVs for Layover have a lot of Easter eggs, and some of them are deep cuts from HYYH The Notes. Let's start with Rainy Days. Here he is looking at himself in a mirror. And here the lyrics reference the 4-leaf clover sign that his BU character dreamed about in Notes 2. That was a critical clue for finding out what was wrong with Seokjin. At the end of the blue MV, he's sitting on a swing outside an apartment complex. It turns out that he's come there looking for Yeontan, and he finds him there. This mirrors the scene in Notes 2 where Taehyung goes to an apartment complex in search of his mother. He sits on a swing as dawn breaks, and then he sees her on a balcony above him. Love Me Again gives us yet another landline phone, and together with that we see a staticky TV like the one in Jimin's burning cart. Slow Dancing has more Easter eggs than any of Tae's other MVs. He's going to a beach where he'll hang out and have fun with his friends, which is an obvious reference to a key scene from the BU. And he's going there in a van that's basically one big mirror. At the beach, they have banners that are also mirrors, and they catch creatures that look like butterflies. Back at his apartment, we see another butterfly. Now, moving on to Friends, we see different timelines that end the same way with his death. Then he meets another version of himself, just like Jimin did in the Japanese version of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. The message of Friends seems to be to love yourself, and that's both an era and a major theme of the BU. Finally, there's this photo book, which Tae released in February of 2025. Rêver means dream. Not only is the concept of dreaming important to the BU and to BTS in general, but in the BU, Taehyung has prophetic dreams. Jungkook also has a photo book with an Easter egg for a title, Time Difference. Some of the BU characters have a special association with certain items, like Hosik with candy bars, and Jungkook is the character most often associated with time. That includes hourglasses, various kinds of watches, and clocks. Of course, all the members are shown with timepieces in different photo shoots, but they're especially important for Jungkook because, as I've said many times, he's the secret center of the BU. That could be why he's at the center of all these clocks in this still frame that I grabbed from a VCR. Jungkook's character also has a special connection to wormholes, and it goes back all the way to his childhood. I've mentioned this scene many times before. So here's JK in a different photo shoot posing in front of a wormhole. And this wormhole is also a reference to Space Odyssey 2001. That reinforces our prediction about the next era of the BU. We predict that the cat will separate our heroes across time, space, and the multiverse, and they'll have to find a way to reconnect. Here's JK with another timepiece, and the picture came from a graffiti-themed photo shoot. As you know, graffiti plays a major role in the BU, especially the HYYH era. In one photo shoot for the album Golden, JK posed with wings that remind us of blood, sweat, and tears. The preview trailer for Golden includes this shot, which reminds us of this shot from the Japanese version of I Need You. And the preview trailer includes several shots of a theater lobby, which reminds us of both Boy with Love and also Lights. In Standing Next to You, the angle of this shot makes it look like Jungkook is crouching in front of a wormhole. In 3D, we see old-timey photo booths with landline phones, and in fact, this photo shoot includes 2 shots of just the photo booths by themselves. No JK, no anyone else at all. That should tell you how important landline phones are. The 3D photo shoot also has several shots of a chessboard. The gumballs in this machine look like baseballs. That's another callback to No More Dream, and Suga used the same callback. I've saved the sneakiest Easter egg for last, but before I point it out, I have to explain it a little bit. This restaurant sign is definitely a prop. I know that because I searched Google for Kent's Kitchen and for this menu, and they don't exist in real life. So that means the menu board and everything on it were chosen deliberately. With that in mind, look at this. There's a whole section called Time Favorites. Like I said at the beginning of this video, BTS hid more than 77 Easter eggs in their solo material. I decided to share 77 because it's a special number, and I chose Easter eggs that clearly were Easter eggs and not just coincidences. So looking back at the whole list, we can see a heavy emphasis on BTS's first song, No More Dream, which becomes simply Dream at the end of the cinematic MV for On. In a reaction video for that MV, BTS told us that the change from No More Dream to Dream meant the BU was going to be rebooted. So the Easter eggs related to No More Dream reinforce the idea of a reboot. We also have a lot of wormhole-shaped objects, a couple of telescopes related to Jin, a couple of astrolabes, lots of timepieces, and lots of landline phones. All these things seem to confirm our predictions about the next era of the BU. I strongly encourage you to watch our video about the BU reboot if you haven't watched it already. And since the next era of the BU could start as early as June when the members return from military service, I strongly encourage you to watch our Yet to Come playlist before we get any new BU material. That way you can either tease us if our predictions are wrong or congratulate us if they're right. So now it's your turn. There are still dozens of Easter eggs for you to find on your own, so tell me in the comments what you've noticed. Or just ask questions about the ones I've talked about. You can even challenge me on them. Finally, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Thanks as always, and Apo Bangpo.